Good morning, Year 7. I hope you've had a lovely week and welcome to your solutions video for this week's 20 questions. So this week's 20 questions should say 6, 2.6 in the corner, and we'll go through the answers and then you can mark them as you go. Okay, so the first one, as always, is just adding some fractions that already have the same denominator. So if they've already got the same denominator, you just need to add the top two numbers. So you'd have 2/3 as your answer to that one. Second one is subtracting fractions with the same denominator. So here you've got 3/7 minus 1/7. So if you do 3 take away 1, that leaves you with 2. So your answer would be 2/7, like that. Okay. Number 3 then. So as always, we are dividing by 10. So if we take our number and we want to divide by 10, we're going to move it back 1 decimal place or take away that 0 in this case. Okay, so the answer to this one would be 927. Okay. Okay, and for the next one, so we've got 28,000 divided by 1,000. So if we count up our zeros on the 1,000, we've got 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so that means we're going to have to take 3 off here. So 1, 2, 3 gone means our answer is 28. Okay, so for number 5, it says turn 550 centimetres into metres. Now, as I said before, there are 100 centimetres in a metre. Okay, so in 1 metre, sorry. So therefore, if I've got 500, say let's start with 500 centimetres. I've actually got 550. But here I've done 100 and I've times it by 5. So if I do the same on the other side, I find out that 500 centimetres equals 5 metres. And then I've got 50 centimetres left over, which is half of 100 centimetres. So if I half a metre as well, I'd get 0.5. or half, so my answer is 5.5 metres, or 5.5 metres. So up next, I've got 38.2 metres equals how many centimetres, okay? So if I know that 1 metre equals 100 centimetres, and I want 38.2 metres, so therefore, if I times this side by 38.2, I'm going to have to do the same here, okay? So I'm going to do 100 times 38.2, which is going to give me 3,820 centimetres. So there's your answer for that one. So for the next one, it says write in figures 4 tens, 9 tenths and 7 thousandths. So we'll start with our 4 tens, so if I pop that there. Now after tens comes units, but it doesn't mention anything about units, but we've still got to put our 0 in there, okay, because there aren't any units, but it wouldn't make sense if we didn't put them in there, okay. So we've got 40. Now we put our point. Now up next would be tenths, so that's good. I've got 9 of those. But after tenths would come hundredths, but I don't have any of those, so I'm going to put my 0. And then finally I've got 7 thousandths, and that's what comes next, so I can pop my 7 there. So my answer would be 40.907. Now the next one says write in figures 500, 7 units, and 9 hundredths. Okay, so I'll start with my 5, because that's the first one I've got. That's 100. Now after 100 comes tens, but I don't have any tens, so I'm going to have to put a 0. Then comes 7 units. Well, I can write my 7 next. But what comes after that? Well, after that we get tenths, don't we? But it doesn't mention any of those. So we'll have to put 0. And then we've got 900. So we can write that there. Okay, so the next one is finding the missing number. Now, we did quite a few of these in class. So this one says something minus 2 equals 5. So we're going to look at the answer first. Our answer is 5, and then we're going to look at the thing we've got. So if it says minus 2, we're going to do the opposite. So instead of 5 minus 2, we're going to do 5 add 2. Okay, so 5 plus 2 is 7. Okay, now if we think that's what goes in our question mark, we can just test it. So if I put 7 above my question mark, 7 minus 2 equals 5. Perfect, that's true. So I know that my answer is indeed 7. Yep, so that one was 7. So the next one says something divided by 11 equals 6. So we look at our answer first, which is number 6, and then we know that the function that it's trying to do is divide by 11. So we're going to do the opposite. We're going to times by 11. So we're going to do 6 times 11 equals 66. And then we'll pop that above our question mark and see if it works. 66 divided by 11 is indeed the number 6. So we know that we are correct with our answer there. Okay, so on to the next one, just a subtraction. So we're going to write it out nice and neat. So 19,674 minus 13,983. And we're just going to do what we always do. So we're going to start from this side. So 4 take away 3 is 1. 8 from 7, or we can't do that. So we'll make that one into a 5 and that one into 17. Well, good news, we can do that now. So 8 from 17 is 9. 9 from 5, oh, we can't do that one. So that becomes 15, and we'll make that a 6. 3 from 8 is 5, and 1 take away 1 is 0. Okay, so that should be our answer, 5,691. On to the next one then. So we've got 12,020, and we want to take away 3,608. Just make sure they're written correctly below each other, so we've got nothing below here. 8 from 0 we can't do, so we're going to borrow it from over here, so that becomes 10. So 8 from 10 is 2. If we take away 0 from 1, that means we're still left with 1. 6 from 0 we can't do, so we're going to do this. 6 from 10 is 4. 3 from 1, oh, I can't do that either. So 3 from 11 is 8. So there's my answer there, okay? 8,412. Okay, so completely equivalent fraction. So if you remember, the word equivalent just means the same. So I've got to figure out what multiplication happened at the top, and then I'm going to do the same to the bottom. So what did we times 3 by to get to 33? Well, we times 3 by 11 to get to 33. So with fractions, we always do the same to the bottom as the top. So that means if I times the top by 11, I'm going to have to times the bottom by 11. So 7 times 11 is 77. So that's my answer to that one. Now we're going to do the same for this one. This time they've given us both of the denominators, so we know what those are. So we've got to figure out, how did we get from 7 to 42? What did we times 7 by? Well, we times 7 by 6 to get to 42. So if I've times the bottom by 6, I'm going to have to do the same to the top. So I'm going to have to do 3 times 6, which is 18. So those two, 3 over 7 is the same as 33 over 77, and 3 over 7 is also the same as 18 over 42. Okay? So on to the next one. It says complete using these symbols, okay? So as we know, it's like a crocodile, and the mouth always goes towards the bigger one. So if we write them out, minus 11 and minus 18. Now, we've looked at number lines a lot recently, so if we think about, the one that's bigger is always the one that's closest to 0. So if we were to go from 0 from our negative numbers, we'd go 0, minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, and we'd find minus 11 first, wouldn't we? So that means minus 11 is bigger than minus 18, because minus 18 is further away from 0. So for the next one, we've got minus 13, and we've got minus 12. So again, we've got to think about that number line, and if we're starting from 0 and we're going backwards, we've got to think about which one are we going to get to first. Well, we're going to get to minus 12 first, which means minus 12 is bigger than minus 13. Okay, so on to this one. So it says 30 times 30, but remember, we can just take our numbers without the 0. So if we do 3 times 3, we'd get 9. And then we've got 2 zeros, so if we add those on, we get our answer of 900. The next one's exactly the same, so we're just going to take 8 and 5. So if we times 8 by 5, we get 40. And then again, we've got 2 zeros, so we can just pop those onto the end there. Okay? Annoyingly, we've just run out of time and we only had 2 questions left. So I'll make a very short extra video that will give you the answers to the last 2. Okay? Thank you.